Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Garnivore Gengar Night Talk. And we're back with another one. And anyway, so I want to discuss something interesting. I just got back from a family reunion today. And, I remember back before my grandparents were dead, it was everyone kissed their ass because they were the rich people, you know? And it's funny how all that changes this year. Usually there's 30, 40 people will show up at a family reunion, and it's now, not so much. There was hardly anyone there. But it's so funny when it's just you're the one with money, and they're just all hitting you up man, what are you doing? What have you been up to? It's just none of them are interested. When you don't really have much going on, and it's just they find out you're the rich one, and they're like, hey, man, you should take this family reunion over. It's hell no. No, I'm good. Came for the chicken. Anyway, that's all we have on that. But, yeah, it's just weird how family acts. It's just the bums just chase the rich parts of your family of oh, well, you're doing better than I am, man. Well, what's your secret? Steal Pokemon. No, I'm just fucking with you. But yeah, it's just when people see you do big things, they're just damn, instantly it's just oh, you should take things over. It's nah, better shit to do. Anyway, so I want to talk about a set that everybody hates, but everybody's going to want to buy here very soon. And I want to explain what happens in sealed Pokemon that's hilarious about it, in my opinion. That, Unbroken Bonds, for example. This was a box, when I first started collecting, you pretty much couldn't give this away for $300. And everybody hated it. Everyone talked down on this set so bad. It's not investable and all that jazz. And you pretty much had to buy it because you wanted to just make a collection. Because my goal was to have every Sun and Moon era and X and Y era and Sword and Shield era box. And yeah, I never got close to completing that goal because it's just crazy hard to do. Now it's impossible. I was going to do it before prices went up. But either way, this was about as far as I got. Some Ancient Origins and a couple other boxes, but I sold those, so whatever. Anyway, this is about as far as I got. And I decided just go for all Sword and Shield era, But these become, a box that nobody wants. Then they hit 500. Then people start to kind of decide, okay, maybe I should get one. Then they hit 1,000. And now you're looking at these being a $2,000 box. And I want to explain the uniqueness of the Sun and Moon era and X and Y era and why there's a big difference. Because even a lot of my other collector friends, they really don't understand this. And they never understood it back then. And I think they do now just because the prices have forced them to. But a lot of them said, well, why buy Unbroken Bonds for 500 when you can buy Evolving Skies, And I mean, hey, that's a good argument. Don't get me wrong. But as I've tried to explain to a lot of people before, the Pokemon Center didn't exist in Sun and Moon era. And if it did, it existed for a very short time. It didn't exist, especially in the X and Y era. And this is why these boxes are significantly rarer than Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet. Is because the Pokemon Center was able to mass stream print these boxes to complete demand for anyone that believed in them, that you could just buy them. Like Brilliant Stars, for example. These boxes set at Pokemon Center for 125 for years, and just no one picked them up unless you just really thought they were good. Same with Fusion Strike. Yeah, that's where all these cases came from, Pokemon Center. That you could just buy as much as you really wanted to waste your money on. And, and granted, now they're drying up. And it blows my mind that people are even surprised. to see, you know, a box like Fusion Strike hit $750, $800, $900, and probably be on its way even higher soon. You know, that I just don't know how it even surprises people that over time this stuff just gets crazy expensive. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. It's just over time, you know, especially with how much gets ripped open, it just becomes difficult to find, you know, just by default. And that's why I said, you know, years ago, the Sun and Moon era will be the era that everyone hates for the most part. I'm not saying everybody does, but that most people will not spend their money on. And in a year from now, they will be dying to spend their money at even double the prices. And I mean, hell, look at it now. You know, Unbroken Bonds at double the prices. You know, our words were completely correct on this. You know, people would die to pay $1,000 for Unbroken Bonds right now. You know, and it's just like they wouldn't pay $500 for it. You know, same with Cosmic Eclipse. People wouldn't spend $700-800 for Cosmic Eclipse, and now it is like well into the $2,500 range. You know, it's just people just don't see the cycle of like this stuff really is like long term an absolute gold mine. And you have to phase out all the bullshit that you hear from the creators, all the chaos of what happens week by week by week by week. And you just have to forget, you know, like you have to just have it in your mind that I'm investing in this stuff, I'm putting it away for a certain time period, and then I will eventually unload. And the longer that time period is, the more expensive the stuff you own will get that's sealed. And, you know, and that brings me to the next point of my video, is starting to talk about chase cards. And as much as I really don't recommend singles on this channel, I do want to have a discussion at the current prices of some of these said singles. You know, like we're looking at like Gengar. You know, this has been a card that like not a lot of people have wanted to like pick up, and it's kind of had like a stigma recently of like people still want it, you know, but it's just had this stigma of like, do people really want to fork out the actual money for it? And you know, I think when you look at how difficult it actually is to get a PSA 10 Gengar like yourself, like without buying just a graded copy, you could spend thousands and thousands of dollars, man. I mean, you could open up this whole case and still not get a PSA 10 worthy Gengar. You know, you could spend $6,000. But, you know, let's just say an average box of Fusion Strike is $800. Like, you're getting the main chase card for like $1,250 in a PSA 10 perfect condition. And in my opinion, the Gengar VMAX Alt Art is one of the best arts in Sword and Shield era. I mean, it really fucking is, you know, and people have mixed emotions about it, that, you know, it's not, but I think it's just such a memorable card. And like, we also want to break this down with Leafeon, you know, and Glaceon as well. You know, these cards, getting them in PSA 10 is not a bad idea. They're very beautiful cards, and, you know, years to come by, they're going to be expensive. You know, and I just don't know how else to tell people on this one, but like to open up Evolving Skies is $2,000 now, you know, and I consider Leafeon like one of the main chase cards out of the set. I mean, even though Umbreon's way better, like cash wise, I still think Leafeon, I mean, if you can pick Leafeon up for 500 in a PSA 10, I just don't think you're going to do bad on that. You know, like if you're willing to wait it out, I just don't think you're going to do terrible on it, man. I just really don't. Same with the Glaceon. I just think picking up these cards at the current market prices are just not terrible ideas. And I'll kind of explain, you know, because like as sealed has its proved data of just going up over time, singles sort of do as well. Like, wait, let me see if I can find my Glaceon. And a lot of the cards that do this are more or less. Oh, there's my other Glaceon. See, I have a massive Glaceon collection, but where's it at? Damn it. Glaceon, where you hiding at, buddy? It's somewhere in here. Lugia. That's just another card that you just gotta pick up. Like, if you don't own a Lugia, at least one, you just need to grab one at the current prices. You won't regret it. Like, these are some of the singles that are really worth it. But, like, this is another card I really want to discuss. Glaceon from Mystic Dawn. This card has exploded in PSA 10. I mean, it is literally like a $9,000 card. It went from 7 grand to 9 grand. And that's why I think even to find, like, ones in semi-good condition, if you can find them at, like, the $200 price point, and they're pretty mint, you're just not going to do bad on them. And that's why, like, I think a lot of these cards, like, especially this Glaceon, is just so difficult to find in perfect condition, first of all. But, and it's just a beautiful art, and over time, it has also gotten extremely expensive. Actually, more expensive than Mystic Dawn sealed itself, I'm pretty sure. I mean, in a PSA 10 at least. Like, we're talking, this card in PSA 10 is actually worth more than a sealed booster box of Mystic Dawn. I'm not 100% on that, but you can do the numbers. It's definitely not cheap. So over time, we witnessed that card get extremely expensive. And I mean, honestly, the art of, like, this is just, it's incredible, man. Like the old arts are just stunning. And I just think, in 10 years, 15 years, a lot of people will look back at those and be like, wow, like a PSA 10 of that is just sick. And it's the same thing with the Leafeon. Like, we're already witnessing where it's just too expensive to chase these cards. I mean, like, who the fuck is opening up Evolving Skies right now chasing Leafeon VMAX? I mean, really no one, And even to chase the Umbreon, the main chase cards. I mean, it just doesn't even make sense as it is. I mean, you're already looking at a $2,000 booster box to open up to literally chase a $600 Leafeon in a PSA 10. It's just not worth it. And it's the same thing with Mystic Dawn. Like, it's just really not worth to open up a booster box to chase this card. I mean, it actually might now. The prices are so fucking high. Opening Mystic Dawn might not be a bad idea. If you could pull that Glaceon in perfect condition, like, oh, you're in the money, dude. And if you could pull it maybe out of like 5 or 10 packs, that might be worth the chase for some of you fucking crazy card chasers out there. But, but it's the same thing with Gengar. It's just like these few cards, Leafeon, Gengar, Glaceon, over time, they just do extremely well. Even in a risky singles market where most people have no idea what they're doing. Those are just 3 cards that really, to me, hold the test of time. And, you could argue with some of the Charizards as well. I think a lot of the Charizards, like Champions Path Charizards, will probably hold the test of time as well to be more expensive cards than they are now. But, and that's why I really want to pick up a couple PSA 10 of the Charizards from Champions Path before they get, like, really crazy. But, I still don't want to recommend to my audience to pick these up. But, it's just, if you want them in your collection, now is still not a terrible time to get some of the best arts in PSA 10. Because it's just going to get more expensive and more expensive to chase these. And more just not worth to chase them. Meaning by no more singles come up on the market for Evolving Skies, for Fusion Strike, for Brilliant Stars, all these, like when all these hit $1,000 a booster box, it's, an Evolving Skies hits 3-4 grand. I mean, no one's going to open them. It's already almost like that now. I mean, like, look at the opening experience. You could open up all 6 of these boxes of Brilliant Stars and just get absolutely obliterated. I mean, that's the reality you face in opening any of this stuff. Like, I was watching someone open up the Vaporeon Premium Collections the other day. They opened up 6 of these. And they literally got absolutely nothing. And I want to discuss how expensive these are getting. The Vaporeon graded in PSA 10. Like, a lot of these are fetching $700 if you can get a 10 on any of these cards, which is just wild to me. I really need to check the centering on mine. But that one's not bad. But either way, they're starting to become really expensive graded 10 cards from these collections. But that's about the only thing to look forward to. I mean, pull rates, you just get obliterated, you know, in any box. You know, I really don't care what it is. You just literally get obliterated. They're just absolutely terrible. Like you have better odds of just going and playing fucking slot machines, you know, because you're up 500, down 500 all the time. You know, like you're not just like getting just straight destroyed, you know. And that's why, like, when I see people open packs, I'm just like, what are you even doing? You know, like, yeah, it's fun, but eventually you hit the point where you're just like, dude, opening packs is so fucking not worth it, you know. And I wish I would have learned that sooner, because I would have so much more sealed product if I just decided to just never open packs. But, you know, this gets to the next point of my video is what happens down the line, you know? Like, if Sword and Shield continues to get more difficult to find, you know, will this be the next Unbroken Bonds? You know, it's already a better set than Unbroken Bonds. I don't care what anyone says. In my opinion, if you have the $400 to invest, this right now is probably the best box that money can buy. It is, you know. There's just nothing that touches it, in my opinion. You know, like, you could argue Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, really banger sets, but the prices have already took off like a rocket ship. I still think right now there is literally almost zero risk in buying Chilling Reign boxes at 400, you know, but so much potential upside. And that's just kind of where we're at with it. Is if you want to be invested in Pokemon, I don't think you should just sit on the sidelines. I really think you should pick a set like Chilling Reign or Twilight Masquerade that you just really like, or Surging Sparks or Evolving Skies, and just hold on to it. Hell, even Battle Styles at this point, you know, like, they're all just really fun, unique sets with good art. You know, like the Sleepy Tyranitar is one of my personally favorite cards. And it's still just like, there will be a day where you don't want this now, but you will want it in 5 years from now. You'll be forced to when it's $800. You know, you'll be forced to want to buy it for $500 because it'll be considered a steal. But anyway, that's the main point of this video. Don't sleep on this stuff. Hope you guys enjoy this one. We're out.